Hello boys and girls.
As always, please don't forget to like and subscribe and smack that bell. Now let's get into it. Friends, you may remember that I did a tutorial a few weeks ago on one of my fire engines, and one of the dedicated fans sent an email saying, could you please do a similar one for this lovely turntable fire engine, which is based on the old Dennis fire engines from the 1950s and even the 1940s. So these are the books on which many of the vehicles are based. For example, this lovely 1950s Ladybird book of the fireman. If we look inside here, there are some very good examples of the old Dennis type of vehicles, such as this one. This book gives a very good illustration there. There's a lovely red fire engine there with two firemen in the cabin. This was what inspired this lovely little vehicle here, and as you can see I managed to get two firemen in there side by side, and I'll explain about that in a second. So, as well as the bog standard tender vehicle on which this one is based, there was also a need for a bigger sort of turntable ladder vehicle here. So the ladders typically extend like that, and sometimes there was a sort of cage on the front for the firemen to stand in with a bit more safety there to rescue people. So in terms of how I made this one, it was quite similar to the other fire engine there, in the sense that there's a snot technique at the front, and we can take off the front part like so, and as you can see there's a sort of bracket there with some sideways facing studs. I'll disassemble it a bit more. So as you can see, there's a 2x2 bracket at the front there, which enables the sort of sideways positioning of the engine compartment, if you like, or the frontage of the fire engine. As you can see inside the cabin, I've staggered the firemen by one stud there, so they can actually sit side by side. So one of them leans slightly forward and the other one leans slightly backwards, and therefore they can actually fit side by side, even in a 6-stud vehicle, which is quite clever. And then at the back we've got another fireman sitting on his own there in the back. The windows, I used an old-fashioned sort of 1950s Lego piece for this red window, because it's got that little bit round the edges, the sort of border around the edges, and then I used a railway type window for the one behind, just to give it a bit of contrast. We've got a couple of clips sticking out there to put this sort of bar on, which the firemen use to sort of pull themselves up to get into the cab. It's got a fairly bog standard, I don't know what you call these things, sort of winding piece to wind the black hose pipe, which is then connected to this hose adapter there for squirting onto the flames. The back part is basically just solid plates. I used 2 plates for each of the white squares. They're just 1x1 plates basically, and then the same for the red squares to make this sort of checkerboard pattern, and then a similar thing at the back. I put a couple of sort of windowsill pieces in order to make the steps leading up to the ladder. And then as you can see, the turntable is basically just a normal 4x4 round turntable piece with a hinge then attached, and then a nice stout ladder attached onto that. So here's how we did the front of the engine compartment. As you can see, it's basically a couple of plates thick, and we got some curved pieces there with a 1x2 underneath that, which goes on quite neatly there. The front bumper or fender is made from some curved modified bricks and some plates and tiles, fairly simply, and that just clips on there. I've used a couple of jumper plates on the front engine compartment, so that if we put the sort of engine grill on there, which is on a sort of modified plate, we can make it go slightly upwards, so it sits slightly proud of the sort of engine compartment itself, and gives it a bit more three-dimensional look, so that sort of sticks slightly above the windscreen of the fire engine. And if we look at the actual front of the cab, as you can see, it's just a sort of 6-piece windscreen piece, and I've used a hinge thing with the steering wheel on top of that. And also notice I've put a little dial on there to represent the speedometer in the cab, so that looks quite neat there. A couple of ordinary doors there, and then that just sort of clips on the front basically. We've got a couple of 2x2 plates stuck together there, which go on the front of the fire engine. They go on top of the grey coloured bracket you can see underneath. And then the completed engine assembly can just clip very neatly onto those 4 studs you can see exposed. If we have a look underneath, I've just used very simple axle pieces, 2x4 axle pieces there, with old-fashioned wheels with the studs on. I wanted to give it a little bit of a retro feel, so I've tried to use kind of 1950s Lego where possible, including these nice wheels with the studs, and also they're a nice bright red colour, which makes it look more like a fire engine. On the other side I put what's sometimes called greeblies, which is some kind of controls and levers and handles on the side, which just make it look a bit more realistic. These could possibly be the levers that raise the ladder up and down or something like that. I'm afraid the stickers are getting a bit faded now, but I'm using a new technique now where I can print them directly onto sticky back paper, so I'll probably replace those with the new kind of stickers. I've put a couple of sort of bracket shaped pieces there, modified tiles I think they're classed, just to give the steps effect. Yeah, it's a fairly simple design, but looks quite effective from the outside. I've got the nice black wheel arches there, which contrast with the red. Now, a lot of fire engines from the 1950s had a bell on the top rather than a siren, but I've decided to assume this was a slightly later one, so I put a couple of sirens there, which are made from just modified plates with the sort of circular bit sticking out, and then a couple of these sort of tap or faucet shaped bricks at either end to represent the sirens. So I think that adds a little bit to the detail on top of the driver's cab. So if we put the roof back onto the fire engine, there we go, and then adding the turntable onto the back, that's the completed fire engine, which with the ladder fully extended looks very impressive. And so, with both fire engines safely back at the station, it's time to say live long and prosper. Please don't forget to smack that bell and like and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.